Okay, like everybody else, I watched the Super Bowl last night, and it's come to me that pro football has been reduced to a defensive end and an offensive tackle. Probably specifically the left offensive tackle, but I'd say both tackles have the same problem. And the problem is a freight train lined up in a 10 technique coming like a bat out of hell to the quarterback. And the way I see it, there's a couple of ways you can beat it, or a couple of ways that it's been beat. One, you guys remember this guy, the Brickashaw Ferguson, played for the Jets, and he was, Bill Callahan was his coach, and his deal was a jump set. He was so athletic. He was like a defensive end, and he'd get out there and jump that end before he got a head of steam in. And my argument against that was, number one, it's hard to find those guys. And number two, what happens when they do this? So now you're jumping, and now the guard has got to deal with. And I see this stuff more and more in the NFL more than anything, but also in the big colleges. They line this guy up in I don't know what you call that, a 4-eye, I guess. So now both people have to jump, and that in turn isolates the center, which isn't real good. Now another way that I recruited Taylor Moton. He's a starting right tackle for the Panthers, and he's a unicorn, man. He's like finding the hen's tooth. I remember I went into his high school with the purpose of telling his coach that we weren't going to recruit him, and the coach insisted on bringing him into the room. He walked in the room. I picked up the phone. I called my boss, and I said, "Hey, we're offering this guy." And my boss said, "Well, you hated him on film." I said, "I know I hated him on film, but you should see what he looks like in person." And we offered him. He didn't come. He went to Western. But the saving grace there was he was from East Lansing, Michigan. And, he went to Western, so maybe Michigan State didn't offer him. Anyway, we got him to visit, but he didn't want to come. Okay, another answer to the 10 technique is to chip everything. I remember reading a quote from Sean Payton. He said, "I'm never going into a game again without a chip game plan." And that's all well and good, but he's the head coach, When the offensive line coach wants to chip everything and the coordinator says, "Nah, we're not doing that," you're not going to argue with the head coach, but at least the coordinator is not going to argue with the head coach. Okay, and then there's my approach, and I'm going to say it's my approach, but I stole it from defensive line coaches who, the one arm stab, one arm is longer than two. So when a guy is going to set, and you want to set deep and then get width later, 2 steps and then go attack this guy on his path. We know that to keep our shoulders square, we've got to hang one arm out there, okay? And stop sign is what I called it. We started doing this about the last time I coached college football was in 2015, so that's about 11 years. We started using the one hand, one long and one strong, okay? And that allowed us to keep our shoulders square. And we weren't trying to hit the guy with the one arm, and we were trying not to put it down the middle, because if you get down the middle, you're going to get swiped. You certainly can't put it on the inside, but you just hang it out there like a traffic cop, a stop sign, and make him run into it, but you're aiming to put it on his outside number. And that, when you hit a guy, okay, and let's just say this is his body and these are his shoulders. When you hit him on the shoulder or the pec, you're going to induce a force, a turning force, a circular force on him. Okay, so you don't want to lunge at him, certainly. You want him to run into it. And when he runs into your outside hand, you take your inside hand and you throw him. Okay? And as opposed to guys that either they hockey goalie back into the quarterback, which is, that ain't going to work. And they turn their shoulders, or they just turn their shoulders and try to put two hands in immediately. And they get hit in the chest because that defensive end, that creature out there, has got a long single arm. He's going to run you over. Now, like I said, Moten is so physically, such a physical presence, big, long, strong dude. There's another guy, Deion Dawkins, that plays for Buffalo, and he's immense. He's low center of gravity, just standing there. There are guys that get this done a lot of different ways, but the way we did it was we used that long and strong. Now, if a guy just buries himself into you, it's a bull rush, and he's going to feel two strong arms, and we're gonna add a force, a circular force, either a flip or a throw, that's going to change his course. We can't predict the course, but by adding a circular force, we're going to change him, okay? And change is what we're looking for. We want change. Work is measured in change, and that's what we want to do. We want to change him, okay? Now, in order to understand circular force, I think you got to understand a couple of things, and I think I understand it. Maybe I don't. We already said one arm's longer than two, and we're dealing with a stick or a hook, long and locked arm, or a strong and hooked arm, okay? And what we're doing in this is we're combining push, which is lengthening your arm, pull, which is shortening your arm, and torque, which is coming from your hips and your core. Okay, so we're creating force. That's the human body only makes force these three ways. Okay, push, pull, and torque. And you could say, well, momentum too, but momentum is just a culmination of running. And we've had that discussion before. Running is not what we do. Okay, what we're doing, and you've heard me mention this before, synchronized diagonal antagonists. Okay, so we're using, in a left tackle, he's using or I'm going to say right because I wrote right here. A right tackle is using his outside arm, his right front of his body, and he's pulling back with his left part of his body, the left rear or left back part of his body, and that induces a rotation in the trunk or the core, okay? And we're also using co-contraction to lock the joints in the elbows and shoulders, and we're using anti-rotation. We're trying to make our spine as rigid as possible. Now, I've described the spine before as a stack of bones being held up by four cables, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to make that thing as rigid as possible so that we can conduct force made from our core. The core strength, of course, is the glutes and the abs, okay? And we want to use our glutes and abs against the surface and deliver force through our stick and our hook, okay? And, we talk about the kinetic chain. Here's the surface, here's your legs, the lower part of your body, your core is your glutes and your abs, and your upper part is your upper body, your arms, okay? What we want to do is, the Romans used the fasces, that's where fascists came from, by the way, for all you wokey guys. The fasces was a bundle of sticks with an axe handle in it. It was a symbol of power, the unification, the bundle of sticks. And what we're doing are all of our abdominal and spinal erectors and everything are the bundle of sticks, and we co-contract those against each other, and that that turns our stack of checkers, the vertebrae, into a rigid force conducting unit. So we're not going to use it as our back as a shock absorber. And to tell you the truth, I believe that a little pec and lat action goes in there. So we do twist the spine a little bit. I believe we do. The martial arts guys will say no, but I think that you can certainly add some extension by twisting the spine a little bit. But primarily you're conducting force from your hips, your glutes, and your abs along your spine and through your arm, either a stick or a hook, either pushing with the stick or hooking and throwing with the hooked arm. Okay, and the great thing about circular force is it allows you to maintain coil in your legs and body integrity. And by integrity, I mean you're not flailing, your body shape isn't changing, you have a very efficient body positioning. Jim McNally used to call it demeanor, and I took it a little bit further, and I'm really into the Fajin, Fajin concept, which says I'm going to go so far and no further. I'm not going to let my body lengthen for no good reason. Okay, and I'm going to stay contracted and coiled, okay, condensed, so that I can move quickly.